Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dell Networking OMNM Tech Talk. This is Billy Savito speaking. Today's feature is going to be along the lines of advanced performance monitoring. And we're going to talk about ACLI monitors and ProScan monitors. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review the prior Tech Talks on ACLI and ProScan. We're going to not spend too much time in specifically on items, focus on the monitoring aspect. I'm going to show you three different examples today. I'm going to show you two ACLI monitors. One is going to show using an embedded CLI to do a show command, and we're going to extract a piece of data out of that command, out of that output, and we're going to monitor that. The second one is we're going to send a non-OMNM managed device command out to the network, and we're going to show how to monitor things outside of OMNM, for example, a web service. And we're going to be able to extract a value out of some out and monitor that, basically a web server status in this example. And then the last one here, we're going to show how to do a ProScan monitor, and it's going to basically allow you to monitor compliance or not compliance for your ProScan monitors, your ProScans. So we're going to start with the ACLI monitor, and first thing I want to show you here is an example of what you might want to be interested in. Some output and an example of how you might want to find some data you want to monitor. So here's an output of basically a show interface F00 command, and there's a whole bunch of data here. And let's say some of this data I couldn't get through SNMP through a normal monitor, and I want to somehow monitor that. And so in this case, we're going to look at this line here. We see an input rate of 5,000 bits per second. I'm really interested in the input rate and this number 5,000. I want to monitor that 5,000. So how do I do that? So what we need then is an action that goes in, and I'll show you the example here. We'll edit this action. What I need to do first of all, under my attribute section, is create an attribute that's going to collect that information. And so, oh, I got the wrong one here. I want to go to the internal one here. Edit that one. Now again, I'm doing a show command here, and I'm just going to give that exact same command we just saw, the show interface command. And I want to create that attribute, and I'm just calling it rate, and I'm defining that attribute here as an integer. You can see here it's just a default integer. So that's going to be my placeholder for the data we're going to extract. Next thing I need to do is create the script, and you just saw the script I ran. Basically, show interface F00 is going to give me that output. What you see is our attribute over here that's already been created, and what we need to do next is extract the value from this command. We do that with the value extraction tab. And you can add your extraction parameters simply by clicking on the add button here. And what it's going to show is your attributes you've already created. And here you have an option here to extract the value from the output, or you can match it. If you're going to match it, it means you're just looking for, is it there, is it not there, a yes, no, 0, 1 kind of value. I'm sorry, for the matching, that is. And if you want to actually extract the value itself, and we do in this case, we want to extract that number that we saw. We want to put a parse expression in here to extract that. And so let me show you the one I've added. And this is based on regex. And if you're not familiar with regex, it's extremely powerful in terms of having very granular control of what you can pull out of a set of data or a string. The downside to that is it can be quite cryptic in learning regex. If you're not familiar with it, you probably need to brush up on that a little bit. But in this case, our regex is saying this dot star means everything before ignore, everything after ignore. And if I see this string here starts with input rate and ends with bits per second, I'm going to extract any number in that in between there. That's what this regex is saying. I'm not going to go into the details on regex, but that's essentially what we're saying here. And so back to my our output screen here. This matches what we're trying to do here, and that we see input rate is here, the number is in the middle, followed by bits per second. That's what we're going to extract here. Once you have that set up, you can run it. I'm going to go and close this, and we can execute this. And I'm going to run it against this specific device here that we're going to be demoing here, 2.10. It's a Cisco device. And execute that. So it's going to go out and run this command on the box and give us output. And so we see here now that we got the exact output we had, and our happens to be 5,000. one interesting thing I want to show you here is that if you were to look at the job viewer and you were to enable your informational scripts here on your job viewer and refresh that, it will actually show you at the bottom here the value you've extracted. And it's saying we've extracted our attribute of rate equal to 5,000. One other thing I want to show you is that you also have a history tab when these get executed that you can also go to your session here, and it will give you more detailed output also, and it will show you what you've extracted over time if you select the various executions. These are from manual executions, which you can see here we got one here, and then it shows up on the right here, the rate is equal to 5,000. So that's another way to see your values. Okay, so we have this ACLI set up, and we want to monitor that value. How do we do that? Well, the next thing is we need to go to the Performance Monitor section. And we're going to create a new monitor. And essentially, you right-click and New Monitor, and it's just basically called an Adaptive CLI Monitor. Now, the word Adaptive CLI also means actions, or ACLI is also referred to, but these are action monitors. And so I'm going to show you the one that I've already created. It's this input rate one. I'm going to edit that and show you. And so general parameters here are the same as any performance monitor. On the Options tab is where you select the explicit target you're going to monitor. And you're going to actually select the ACLI we just created. This is the one I just created, ACLI internal for PM. This is the one we're going to, every time it goes in polls, it's going to run this ACLI, extract that data, and we're going to be able to monitor it. And then you have a tab here that talks about the attribute here. We don't need to mess with this area down here once it's set up. Everything else is the same. You can set conditions or thresholds, but generally go back and you set your monitor interval. I'm going at a minute right now. I'm going to cancel this and show you that I can right-click and look at my monitor data directly. And you see here I'm monitoring this and I'm pulling it over time here and I'm getting various values. And by the way, this rate attribute is available when you click the wrench icon. It's a column you can add so you can see your raw data. Okay, raw data is great. Graph. So how do we get them to a graph? Well, that's a performance dashboard. So let me show you one here that I've created. I can just do a quick edit on that to show you that. I've got several monitors in this dashboard, and I've configured them to show input rate in various formats here. You can also do a simple if you want to, but I'm going to go ahead and launch that pop-up so we can see what it looks like. So what we're seeing here is our monitor is the exact same data being represented on different graphs. I wanted to show you different ways to show this. What you see in the first graph is our input rate being monitored over time. So it says up here, my device and the input rate, and it's basically monitoring that over time here, and you can see how that fluctuates. Yellow here is a threshold I happen to set. If I wanted an alarm on it and reach that category, I haven't seen an alarm. And then what you have over here is a dial type option as well. It's showing the exact same value, but it's the last value that's being shown here, 6,000 right here. The dial can only show the last one, and so it's showing that here with a range of 0 to 20,000. This one here down below is just showing, I've altered the range a little bit, so it's only showing 0 to 10,000. So you can, just to show you how you can adjust that if you need to adjust your range. And then the last one here is showing, again, the exact same data, but we're just showing a bar graph over time. So that's how you monitor an attribute. And the tricky part there is just knowing how to extract it with the regex using that action. Okay, the second one that I'm going to show you is an example of if you wanted to monitor something outside of our network, for example, a web service. I'm going to go back to the Actions tab. And this one here is going to be an external command. And so when we set that up, we just specify the type of external right here. That means we're going to go find an executable on this server and we're going to execute it. And you do the same thing here. You decide what attribute you want to extract. In this case, I've created one called status. Again, it's just an integer. In this case, we're looking for a web service to respond saying 0, I'm up, or 1, I'm down. And so I'm extracting that attribute. It's a simple integer. I also happen to have the server name here, but that's not important for monitoring. And then let's look at our script here. So in this case, what we're doing is calling an external command. In this case, it's Perl. You could use Python or anything else you want that's on your box that can be executed via the command line. In this case, I'm going out to this directory here and there is a Perl script called http test.pl, and it takes a parameter of the IP address that we're going to be monitoring, and that's going to be passed in from the actual ProScan monitor. So we could leave this the way it is right now. A couple things to note here. I'm going to show you that we have several examples of scripts that you can use to show this type of functionality. And so this one here that I'm using is called the HTTP test. And by the way, it's in this directory. And this happens to be the VM, but it's in the go down to the OR apps directory, and the performance directory under lib. There's these default scripts in here that you can play with and try. And just to give you a quick idea here, this one here will check if a telnet session is working. This one is a mail server, POP server. This one is a PE ping device. You can ping a device. This is a time server. We're doing the web server. And then we've got an FTP server. You can check a finger status, so a Linux type of thing, and then DNS server. So you can go out and check these different things if you want using these out of the box. And these were here for examples. I'm going to focus today on the HTTP one. I'm not going to look into this because it's just Perl script. I could open it up and show it to you, but it's not real complicated. It just basically goes out and sends a command via Perl to a web server and ask it if it's up or not. Okay. So again, that's our ACLI. The way it's created is called the script, the way it needs to be called. And let's go look at what that might look like in terms of an execution. I'm going to look at the history on this one. And so what you see here is, here's one request that went out, and it came back with in this curly brackets, a 1, no HTTP service, okay? Here's another one that went to a different box, this 30.12, and said, okay, came back with a 0, it's okay. So we're going to be extracting this value right here from this output command. We're interested in the 0 or 1 that happens within this, this command. Okay, so if we look at that action again, I'll show you another regex, but it's the same process. Testing, testing. Seems like it's on. Can you hear me now? Can people hear me now? Were we blocked out? For some reason, the computer audio was on and it went out, I think. Can anyone hear me, please? Probably on mute. Can someone just type in the chat window if I'm on audio, or if you lost me on audio?
I understand that there was maybe just a minute of audio we missed, so just see if you can go back a minute in your field there.
All right, so it looks like we got lost a little bit of time here on the audio, so I'm going to go back here. I'll start with the ProScan monitor. Not sure what happened there. So again, on a ProScan, I'm sorry, not a ProScan, on the ACLI Monitor, if we want to run a command outside of OMNM to some service that's going on, we can do that. And go back into that real quick here. We'll say, look at our script here. And basically what we do is we can call an external Perl script. It could be Python or any other script that you have or any executable you have on your box. You can rerun that through this command. This particular one takes an attribute of an IP address, and this will get passed in from the monitor when we select that. And so what I showed earlier was that I have some sample scripts out there on all installs. It's installed into this OR apps performance lib directory. I'm sorry, it's in the scripts directory, performance scripts. And various things that you can try to use, things that will go out and test. A telnet session if it's up, mail session, SMTP, POP3 session, ping a device, time protocols. We're going to work on the HTTP one today. FTP service, finger, or DNS services. You can actually go out and monitor it. If you want to know if they're up or down or when they go down, hook those into a monitor, and then you can be notified when there's a problem. Maybe get an event on that. As I was showing this script here, what we're doing is we're going to be extracting the output of this script, and I'll show that again one more time on my history here. We're going to want to extract this value right here between the two curly brackets. That's the status of the web service when we send this command. And so you see 0 means OK, 1 means down, and so you see various statuses here coming back, and that's the value we want to extract. So what I was showing here was on the script, we're going to do the same thing that was done previously and try to extract that value. In the value extraction tab, we see here we have an extract option on the status attribute, and what this is saying here is between curly braces, extract any decimal value, and so we're going to extract that value out. That's the regex implementation there. Okay, so then we go back to monitor this. We need to get this into a monitor. And it's the same process. We're going to right click and do a new ACLI monitor. I have one here already. We're going to show that one. Parameters here are the same. You have your monitor options, and this is where you set your targets for the web servers you want to monitor. These will be passed into that Perl script individually, and then when it's tested. And then here you specify the ACLI action script that's going to be executed. See your attributes here, and then you can set your conditions and thresholds as you need to. And so we can look at the monitor data on this as well, and see we are collecting data. And you see variety zeros and ones, meaning we have some that are up and some that are down. And so how do we look at that in more of a dashboard fashion? We need to create a dashboard. So what you see here is I have one created. Just to look at that real quick. I have a couple of the custom little monitors set up to monitor various things here. I can show you one of those. So basically, I pull in my monitor target, and it's going to show me the attribute here. I select it on these custom monitors, and basically just save it, and then we just launch it. So you can see here is again for status, we're going to see a 0 or a 1, and so what we see here for 30.12 is zeros, meaning everything's okay on this web server. On this other one here, I have basically a bar graph. I could have done a line graph, but this is just a bar graph, also simulating a similar thing. But on this one is my 52 web server. This is my corporate internal server I'm monitoring. And so I put in here 0 means up, 1 means down. So you see zeros down here. And this, you're seeing this up and down because I've actually created some action scripts that go out and take this service down and up at different intervals, so that we can, it's roughly every 5 minutes, it fluctuates back and forth. And that's mainly for the demo purposes. Normally you want all see zeros, obviously. But you see that it's up for some period of time. Up means 0, and then it goes down. This means 1. So if you're graphically watching this dashboard, you would see that kind of status. So that's a way to monitor the an external command. And so there's ways to do that. All right, the last one here is a ProScan monitor. And so that also starts with a ProScan. And for those who, just for a brief, ProScan is a way to go out and issue commands to a device and scan its config file in some way and look for specific parameters, and you can define that as in compliance or out of compliance. And so in my case, I'm using the one that I've used in past demos. This one here is called Cisco SNMP community string not public, and all that says is, let's just go into it and look at it so you know. And also, by the way, I'm not scanning the device config directly. I do have the options here, if you recall, doing a device backup, the current config, or to a label, or by date. What I'm doing is I've actually created an ACLI that does a show run SNMP. So it just spits out the SNMP section, and then that. And so that's another way that you may not be familiar with. You can scan a particular output of another action to scan for compliance. And then on this one here, you do need to set targets. I got multiple targets here set. And my criteria here, just to show everyone what we're looking for here, my script says look for this. And the way this is read is my compliance policy is compliant if it does not contain this string. So basically what I'm saying is if it contains public, I see that as a security flaw, I want to make sure I'm notified of that. So I'm looking for this on the devices for this server community public. Okay. So what we're going to monitor here is basically, is it compliant or is it not compliant? So we just run this and it's going to say it is compliant or it's not compliant. But how do we monitor that compliant or not compliant state? We need to go back to performance monitor, and we create that new monitor, and it's called ProScan. And so I'm going to show you an example of that here. The ProScan monitor, hit to monitor. So in this case, again, the options are the same here, and I can go in here, but this time I specify a policy that we're going to monitor. In this case, I selected the one we're going to be looking at. And again, you have the same options with thresholds and conditions to monitor if it's in compliant or not in compliant. But basically, what you've done is you just save it, and now I'm monitoring that for compliance. And then, so how do you see that on a dashboard? So I have a couple here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to launch a pop-up on a simple dashboard. And this is another case where I actually have another action running in the background to test this. I'm actually putting public on a box and taking it off at intervals so you can see how the graph can vary. So you see at the top here, this blue graph is 2.31. That is 100% compliant. It's always in compliance. It hasn't fluctuated. Things that are not in compliance will be 0. And so what you see here is that at one point, this red line here, 2.30, was in compliance up here. Then it went to not compliant for some period of time. And then it was scanned again and went back into non-compliance. I'm sorry, into compliance. Non-compliance is down here. Compliance is at the top. So you can see it bouncing around. It's just for graphical effect there. But that's how you would monitor if you wanted to view this visually. This is one you would do it. Another example here of a custom dashboard here we can look at. In this case, I'm monitoring over 48 hours. What you're seeing here is multiple attempts to check compliance. It basically averages that over the polling intervals and the hourly rate and the hourly comeback. It's basically saying 20% of the time it was compliant. And then the rest of the time down here is not compliant, not compliant. Then it all of a sudden went up to 50% compliant, meaning half the time it's showing compliance. And this is basically reflecting the time interval over such a long time interval when it's compliant. Now, if it were compliant all the time, you would have a graph at 100%. It would show the scale here. But this is for a 2.30 service. I'm sorry, a 2.30 device. On the 2.31 device that I'm monitoring, this one here is always compliant. So you see 100%. Okay, so there you have it. That's how you do adaptive CLI action monitoring, how to track values, and then how you can monitor ProScan compliance for in or out of compliance. All right, I'm opening it up for questions now. Sorry about the audio issue. I'm going to open it up for questions now. Please, if you want to type into the chat window or raise your hand here, I'll be looking and we can answer those questions. Give me just a minute here. While we're thinking about that, I'm going to talk about alarms a little bit. Again, I just want to show you some examples here. I set some conditions on that web server up or down. I'm saying basically if it goes down, send me a critical. So here you see a condition alert, web server down. So you could, email that or do some event processing rule to take some action. Here's some for web servers up. I have one here for an ACLI input rate. I had a threshold set on that. Basically, if it exceeds 1,000, send me a warning, or 6,000. And so you see that here. So standard monitor behavior, nothing new there. Again, I'd like to open it up for any question, not necessarily performance related. If you have any, feel free to ask any questions. I do have Brandon here standing by. Do you have anything you want to add there, Brandon? Anything? Question?
I suppose maybe one thing that, you just talked about the alarms. Another thing is that, the highest alarm severity for any node, like a managed equipment, there are several different ways in which you can visualize that. One of which is the network view. You can see all your nodes and how they're connected to each other. And it might be one of them is going out of compliance or whatever with the ProScan monitor. And based on how you have the threshold set up and have the alarm set up, you might see that suddenly go red, and then you can investigate what happened. It might be that, just all of a sudden there was a security breach or some sort of change in, someone had changed the configs on the device that could lead to a security. So it's very useful to see that either through the network view or through the map context or through the container view, which I believe we've covered those in prior tech talks as well.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, if you're driving your work off of topology, all of these sub-areas would roll up into your topology, and you would see that as well. So that's one way. If you're not looking at the dashboard, if you're looking at your screen, it's another reason to get get alarms on these so that you can, if you want to drive your work off the topology. Okay. I don't see any questions. Any more questions here? I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all for joining us, and we will talk to you next time.